Until we strike, we are invisible, inaudible, and utterly imperceptible. And so are we the masters of our enemy's fate. Aethon Shaan, Chapter Master of the Raven Guard. The Raven Guard just got new lore, this time for their new Chapter Master. And we've seen the model, but now we've got some of the first real knowledge about him since his promotion. On the Warhammer Community website, as they did with the Salamander's Forge Father, Vulcan Shaan, the new model gets an article explaining who he is, what he's doing, and why he's doing it. I love that they're diving deeper into the lore for what's happening in the tabletop game. It's really cool that they've been doing that and going there. But yeah, just like with Vulcan Shaan, I think they're using this article to do a bit of foreshadowing. And after we take a look at it, tell me what you think. Is it an omen? A psychic foretelling of the return of the 19th Primarch, Corvus Corax, to the battlefields of the 41st millennium? So before we get into it, like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you really want to support the channel, then join as a member like these epic heroes. Now, from the Warhammer Community website, let's dive into the Grimdark. Only recently elevated to the position of Chapter Master, Aethon Shaan exemplifies the solemn, taciturn nature of the Raven Guard. Said to be able to reach any prey, no matter how secure, he orchestrates his chapter's campaigns from the shadows, emerging from the darkness only at the most opportune moments to land the killing blow upon the enemy. New though he may be to his position, Shaan has centuries of combat experience behind him. He had already captained the 10th, 8th, 4th, and 1st companies before being elevated as Master of Shadows. Shaan has demonstrated a masterful grasp of grand strategy and truly exemplifies his chapter's measured and precise approach to warfare. Just as Shrike and Severax before him, he applies the Raven Guard's strength sparingly, but to great effect. He guides his autonomous strike forces on clandestine campaigns across the Imperium. His shadow captains are trusted to wage campaigns of misdirection, assassination, subterfuge, and terror that leave the enemies of the Raven Guard off balance and primed for destruction. So too does he know the value of information, maintaining networks of spies, info thralls, and other agents to keep him apprised of rising threats and weaknesses. Shaan's appointment as Master of Shadows came after his predecessor, Kayvaan Shrike, ordered a scattering of the chapter's strike forces. Having been elected to command in the aftermath of Corvin Severax's death, Kayvaan Shrike had come to realize that the mantle of high command did not fit well upon his shoulders. He saw in himself the same recklessness and lust for battle that had condemned Severax to death. Moreover, he had invested himself deeply in mastering the path of ambush. A Master of Shadows, he believed, should be an exemplar of all three elements of the Primarch's trifold path of shadow. Despite his misgivings, Shrike led the chapter well in a time of great horror and steered his battle brothers through the conflicts that followed the opening of the Great Rift. Almost from the moment of his promotion, however, Shrike decided that he would eventually abdicate his position as soon as an appropriate successor could be identified. The Indomitus Crusade provided Shrike with the opportunity he sought. The greatest of his commanders were scattered among these war fleets and elsewhere, there to be evaluated and analyzed by their commander. Of all the battle brothers unwittingly observed and evaluated by the incumbent Master of Shadows, Shaan demonstrated the greatest talent for decisive leadership and the marshaling of meager resources, as well as a restraint that Kayvaan Shrike believed himself to lack. His victories over the Genestealer cults on Gelvia, the Iron Warriors of the Strigneth system, and invading orcs of Asia II had been with minimal loss and maximum effect upon the enemy. Summoned back to the Ravenspire in the aftermath of these victories, Aethon Shaan was swiftly, and without ceremony, elevated to Master of Shadows. There he donned the relic jump pack Blackwing Mantle, and took up the claws of Severax, artifacts once borne by the fallen Chapter Master and subsequently recovered by Kayvaan Shrike. On the rare occasion that Shaan commits his own blades to the fight, his presence heralds doom for the enemy. Ordinarily, he arrives at the culmination of his battle brother's clandestine efforts, descending to land the killing blow upon an already weakened foe. He is a shadowy avatar of vengeance, tongues of black flame licking from the nacelles of the Blackwing mantle as he plummets into his enemies to slash and rake with his paired lightning claws. The towers of the Raven Spire are the roots of many strange avian beasts. Only upon close inspection does it become apparent that many of these creatures are not wholly natural. They range in form from vat-grown organic specimens to those almost entirely mechanical in nature. Aethon Shaan is always attended by several of these servo-automata, and many others are said to accompany him to battle, finding hidden perches or soaring unseen overhead. Those outsiders and enemies keen enough to spot them simply assume they are some form of surveillance mechanism, which is only part of the truth. Certainly they feed Aethon Shaan and his commanders a constant influx of tactical data and intercepted transmissions. Yet to Battle Brothers of the Raven Guard, their constant presence is a reassuring reminder that wherever the chapter wages war, the lost Primarch's gaze remains upon them. Okay, so to me, this promotion was not entirely necessary. I really like Shrike, and this Aethon Shaan character seems to have a lot less charisma than his predecessor. Why Shrike had to step down is a mystery to me because the lore reason just doesn't make that much sense. As what kind of Space Marine would he be if he didn't want to lead? A son of Corax, I suppose. I guess that does track. But yeah, this Aethon Shaan guy looks crusty, ominous, and evil, where Shrike looks emo and stealthy. I don't know. Shaan just seems a bit clunky to me, but he still looks super badass. Raven Guard are awesome, that's for sure. And this guy has a lot harder look to him than Shrike does, so perhaps it is Games Workshop just trying to make the Raven Guard chapter seem more butch. I do love how he's clinging to his rock, about to pounce off of it, which is kind of reminiscent of Conrad Curse, just showing he's a boss. And it's also very interesting that they talk about the Raven Guard using terror tactics. Maybe they're slipping into a little bit of degradation. I don't know, but I think that these miniatures that Games Workshop are releasing for the first founding chapters are all kind of like mini Primarchs in their own right. Vulcan Hastan is striding forward in that boss pose, much like the Lion's Own pose, and Aethon Shaan is no exception. He's looking like a true son of a demigod over here. So he used to lead the 4th Company, and has led the 1st, 8th, and 10th Companies as well, and therefore is about as seasoned a commander as the Raven Guard ever had, so it's appropriate that this old crow gets a promotion. I have a feeling that he's going to get up to a lot more things than Shrike did. But I also love that Shrike didn't die or anything. He's still around. He just stepped down from a position that he never wanted in the first place. Intrigue at court is not well suited to the Raven Guard, so I'm glad they did a smooth transition with no pomp or fanfare, just, hey, you're leader of the Crow Dudes now, okay? Which is pretty awesome. I don't know if it makes me like Kayvaan Shrike more than I already did. I don't know if anything can, but I sure do have mad respect for him for that on top of already loving the character. I do think this new chapter master is going to be even more brooding, more dour, more introverted than even Shrike, but we'll have to see. I do love his little servitor birds that fly around him. Pretty cool to see how they depicted it on his model too. All in all, the Raven Guard did level up, and this mini is a great expansion to their ranks. Let's hope they keep giving us lore on this character, as he really does have some potential to do great things in the 41st millennium. A bit more than a page on the Warhammer Community site would be nice. As with the new upgrade, we need to see his exploits, actions, and adventures as a chapter master. We know what he's done in the past, but now he is in the position, literally, to shine. Raven Guard suffer from the same syndrome as the Eldar. Games Workshop seldom gives us anything concerning them, and that needs to change. Hopefully the arrival of Aethon Shaan screaming out of the sky, shredding everything before him with his talons, is the first step on a path to redemption. And like with the Vulcan Hastan article from a few days back, they had to drop a hint about the Primarch at the end. This one is not as direct and is vague and cryptic, merely a hint of a tease, but it does suggest that they are still trying to please him. Honestly, Corvus Corax can turn invisible and is depressed, so he's probably just hanging out in the Raven Spire and nobody even knows, which would be funny to me. What do you guys think? Is this a tease for another Primarch's return? Is Games Workshop ready with all of the Lost Brothers of Guilliman and are polling the community with these first founding characters to see who will sell best? Let me know in the comments. Nevermore.